A poor black mother was mocked in a luxury store until the owner appeared. "Get out of this stupid store, you black woman. You are nothing but a thief," screamed Heather while humiliating the black woman and her daughter in front of everyone. What she didn't know was that the owner would appear and change everything. Before we continue, don't forget to comment what country you're watching us from. The air conditioning blew cold, a sharp contrast to the sticky heat outside. Naomi Lewis, dark-skinned and with tired eyes, pushed the glass door with her left hand while guiding her teenage daughter, Amara, with her right. Amara followed with her head down. They wore simple clothes, worn jeans, unbranded sneakers, and a canvas bag hanging from Naomi's shoulder. The Spencer and Reed boutique smelled of leather and arrogance. As soon as they entered, conversations quieted. A blonde saleswoman, Heather, looked them up and down. "Can we help you?" she asked, drawing out the words as if their presence were a threat. Naomi smiled courteously. "I'm looking for a handbag for a job interview," she said. Heather turned to her colleague and let out a snicker. "I don't think people like you can afford to shop here. Our bags start at $900, she said without looking at them. Amara lowered her head further. She felt the stares fixed on her skin like invisible blades. A customer whispered to his wife, "This place is filling up with all sorts of people lately." Naomi clenched her fist. "I just want to look at them," she repeated in a firm voice. Heather clicked her tongue. "Sure, but try not to touch anything. These are delicate items, and they're not for just anyone." A security guard approached, pretending to patrol. Amara noticed him, and her eyes filled with contained rage. "Mom, let's just go," she whispered. But Naomi did not move. She walked toward the counter, observing the lined-up handbags, shiny and possible. The other customers stepped away, some with gestures of discomfort, others with open distrust. Heather raised her phone. "I'm calling a manager." Amara felt her heart pounding against her chest. The whole place smelled of expensive perfume and prejudice. Then, a side door opened, and a deep voice boomed. "What is going on here?" asked Mr. Spencer, the owner. Everyone fell silent. Naomi looked up. Her daughter released her hand. The silence was so dense that the hum of the air conditioning became unbearable. Heather spoke first, her voice rushed but confident. These two women were looking at the bags without permission. The young one reached her hand into one of the shelves. The owner frowned and looked at Amara, who took a step back. "Stealing," he repeated. The guard moved a little closer, and the murmuring of the other customers turned into expectant silence. Naomi lifted her chin. "No one has stolen anything. We were just looking." Spencer narrowed his eyes. "Looking with that open bag, with that attitude." He paused. "You cannot enter a store like this and behave that way." Amara took a step forward, her voice trembling, and the owner looked at her, surprised that she dared to speak. Naomi stood in front of her daughter. "All we want is to buy a bag." Heather let out a low laugh. "Sure, and I want a yacht." Amara trembled but did not cry. She had seen that kind of look before. In school, on the street, everywhere her skin was the first thing judged. The owner extended his hand toward the guard. "Escort them to the exit." Naomi opened her mouth to protest, but something in the man's gaze changed. He stopped and looked closer. "Wait," he said slowly. "What did you say your name was?" Naomi looked at him, confused. "Lewis. Naomi Lewis." In that instant, the color drained from his face. The air seemed to stop. The owner took a step back. "It can't be." The employees looked at each other, confused. Naomi watched him, motionless. Amara barely breathed. Mr. Spencer observed her as if he had just seen a ghost. He took a step back, staggering, and the murmurs returned, soft, full of curiosity. "Lewis," he repeated in a low voice. "Did you know a Daniel Lewis?" Naomi tensed. "Yes, he was my husband." A murmur ran through the store. Spencer ran his hand over his face, incredulous. "My God, Daniel was my partner years ago, before he disappeared from the business." The employees looked at each other, not understanding. Heather tried to speak, but the owner raised his hand, cutting her off. His voice was different now, deep, restrained. "Daniel and I founded this brand together in the 80s. He designed the bags. The first models bore his signature." Naomi took a deep breath. "I know. I watch him work on them every night." He was never given credit. The silence became unbearable. Heather swallowed. The guard lowered his gaze. "That can't be," another employee said quietly. "They always said the designs were yours, Mr. Spencer." The man ignored her. He looked again at Naomi, and then at Amara, who was watching him with a mixture of fear and rage. "Your daughter," he murmured. "She has his eyes." Naomi clenched her fist. "My husband died without a cent while you kept everything." The owner paled. I didn't know. Naomi interrupted him. Of course you knew. You just didn't care. The focus shifted. It was no longer just racism. It was guilt, shame, a buried debt. The customers watched uncomfortably, unable to look away. Spencer looked around, feeling the weight of every pair of eyes. He took a step toward Naomi. Come with me. Naomi did not move. Why? So you will finally look at me like a person? The owner hesitated. Because there is something you must see, something that should never have been hidden. Amara looked at him intently. What is it? The man took a deep breath. His name is engraved on one of the bags from the first collection, in small letters inside. No one knows. The entire store fell silent. Naomi looked at her daughter, and Amara nodded. They walked behind the owner toward the back of the store, leaving behind the saleswomen, the customers, and the awkward silence. When they crossed the warehouse door, the story Spencer had buried for decades began to come to light. Inside, the smell of old leather and dust filled the air. Yellowish lights illuminated shelves filled with boxes marked with old dates. Mr. Spencer walked silently to a display case in the back covered by a gray blanket. With trembling hands, he uncovered it. Inside was a flawlessly designed handbag, dark brown, gold clasps, perfect stitching. Naomi recognized it immediately. That one, she whispered. He stitched it in our living room. Daniel said it would be the first of many. Spencer nodded without looking at her. I never forgot it, he said, but I didn't have the courage to acknowledge it. I knew the world wouldn't accept a luxury brand having. He trailed off, swallowing the words. Black roots. Naomi watched him without blinking. And you profited from that? The man nodded, defeated. Yes. Amara approached the bag, opened it carefully, and there, engraved with dark thread inside, she found 3 letters, Dell. Spencer spoke again, his voice hoarse. The brand doesn't belong entirely to me, neither morally nor ever. Naomi took a deep breath. I don't want your guilt. I want justice. The owner looked at her wearily. Then take it. He handed her a folder. Inside, legal documents, old and signed contracts, proof of the initial partnership between him and Daniel. Naomi took them without trembling. Lumen sighed. I will make everything public. If I have to lose everything, I will. Naomi did not answer. She turned around. Amara followed her. Before leaving, the teenager stopped in front of the bag in the display case. Dad used to say that luxury isn't in the cost, she murmured, but in who makes it. The silence was heavy. When they stepped out into the main store, the employees looked down. No one laughed this time. Naomi walked straight, the folder under her arm and her head held high. Amara followed her, fearless, her eyes shining. And as the automatic doors closed behind them, Mr. Spencer remained standing, looking at the reflection of his own name, knowing that for the first time, his was no longer the only one engraved in history.